Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Digital Discipleship. And today we're going to answer that age old question: can the second part of something be better than the first part? I don't know. Time will tell. But on this one, we're going to specifically focus on parenting and how to use wisdom with social media, with specifically children or kids, as we discuss social media part two. Stick around and check this out. So, social media is obviously everywhere, and how we guide and direct our families when we engage these topics, or when even kids should have social media, should they not have social media accounts? These are all things that are heavily influenced by their peer groups, by society, and by expectations. So, with someone who is an expert in having children and raising children, happens to have six of them, is our good friend, Pastor Joe Hillrich. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, John, it's good to be with you. I want to clarify, by far not an expert on having kids, even though we do have six, nor an expert on parenting. But by God's grace, I think we're growing in it over time. So,
Yes, exactly. And as we discuss this topic, it is one, though, that you've had firsthand experience with. I don't quite yet, maybe a little bit with Jordan,
yeah, my
but
oldest three, I have a 20, an 18, 16, and a 14-year-old of the more of the technological age. So
Mhm,
yeah, it's
mhm.
definitely stuff that I have had to walk through, and I can share our own stories, but also maybe even share my own mistakes that we've made and we're trying to learn and grow from as a
Yeah,
parent.
that would be great. Mistakes are great teachers, especially when they're your mistakes and not ours. But one of the mistakes too that maybe I'm already making is assuming kids won't be exposed to these things until a certain age. And from what I've read, it's actually very surprising how quickly kids get exposed to these different social media things and different content things because of their friend peer groups, and you don't think about it. So, would love to hear your thoughts. Let's set the stage for where we've been. We talked about social media last week, and we talked about how it kind of gets everywhere and it's bright and colorful and dangerous. Any thoughts from last week that you'd like to rehash here?
Just, I mean, because one of the aspects we're going to talk about today is the role responsibility of a parent to set the example.
Hmm.
So it's hard to set the example if we're not setting a good example. So I just like, even since we were together, I see the pull of social media. I see the pull of my phone. It's so difficult to not be attached or tied. Sometimes for good things, sometimes not, but it's become almost an extension of our life experience, that it feels as though you're missing clothes if all of a sudden you look around and you don't have your phone. So for me, it's just further reaffirming and reassuring that this is something that needs to be addressed at all Christians' lives, or there's going to be major ramifications.
Yeah, amen. And I am grateful for clothes. I'm grateful for smartphones. I'm grateful for social media, but I also kind of hate it. And for all the reasons you mentioned, it's addictive. And we really, I think we hit on that pretty extensively last week. But for this one, we want to kind of take a little bit of a different tact and say, okay, it exists. We've covered some of the pitfalls. As parents, how do we use wisdom, and where do we start? So I thought we could start with 22.6 of the London Baptist Confession. You think this is a good place to start?
Sure. You want me to read it?
Yeah, sure. Whatever jumps out to you there.
Yeah. Under the gospel, neither prayer nor any other part of religious worship is now restricted to or made more acceptable by the place where it is done or towards which it is directed. Instead, God is to be worshiped everywhere in spirit and in truth, daily in each family and privately by each individual. Also, formal worship is to be performed in public assemblies, and these must not be carelessly or deliberately neglected or forsaken when God, by His word or providence, calls us to them. So, I mean, just an emphasis on our role and responsibility of being worshipers in spirit and in truth. And as parents, we're guiding and directing our children in that way, in that capacity. And one particular obstacle, one difficulty is how smartphones and social media can kind of take away that focus and that attention.
Yeah, and on the plus side, we can use these things as family worship or discipleship tools to some extent, and we don't want to seem heavy-handed because we want to train up our kids and family in the way they should go. 6-4, you just preached through this not long ago. I thought
Yeah,
this
don't
verse,
provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord.
yeah, and who's the focus of that verse? Who's the pronoun, if you will, there, or the subject? I guess the pronoun. The fathers would be the focus,
Yeah.
and then focusing on leading their family. So there is a
Well,
responsibility for us, yeah, and
yeah,
bring them
it's
up.
very important. And I think that's where, as we're even going to talk today, finding wisdom and discernment, maybe even, and some people might be cautious when we say this, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in regards to social media. That there might be some good ways that we can use it. Now, obviously, there's going to be discernment, there's going to be age appropriateness, but our kids are growing up in a world where social media is the norm. That doesn't
Yes,
mean we cater to the norm, but you can't
w
ignore it.
right, it's, you know, I'm not a huge fan of contextualization when it comes to missions. I understand it. I understand that cultures have some bearing on how we process things. I think the Bible and the context of the Bible should be first,
Yes.
and then guide maybe our message. But contextually or culturally, we're surrounded by this stuff, and as far as I can tell, it's not going away. So rather than be like the angry man that just shakes their fist, like,
Yeah.
"Ah," think we have to put out some guidelines, wisdom, and ways to engage this in grace and love and redeem it, like we talked about. I think briefly last week. Did we talked about redeeming
Yeah.
technology in a sense of the word.
Yep.
So that is what we're going to attempt to do. So point number one: are you ready, sir?
Sure.
Okay. Our kids' digital reality. What about this point jumps out to you?
I mean, I think for us, because we're talking to parents, you need to realize that regardless of our ages, even the younger parents, they've raised in a very different world than their kids are being raised. There's just, I mean, it was kind of normal for us to go play outside growing up. I mean, I'm 49. Uh, I would watch maybe some television. I was on the early step of like Nintendo and things like that, but a world that I grew up in as opposed to where my children are grow up in is it's so drastic. Even it's remarkable to me to see the ability with technology of our kids at a young age. That I mean,
Yeah.
we can send young kids over to grandma's house to help them figure out what's going wrong with the computer,
Yeah, and then you
or
realize it's actually the dishwasher that they
yeah,
need to program, and like, "Oh, no." In fact, my
yeah,
brother just got this microwave, and I'm like, I'm over the hill. I've peaked. I'm gone. I can't figure out how to open this thing because it had buttons and,
okay,
stuff, smart fridges. It's all happening. It's all happening, and, it's not slowing down. So kids are in this environment. It's a reality. It's how they communicate. It's how they engage with one another. Would that be fair to say?
yeah. I remember my one of my children, my oldest. Um, she was definitely behind the average age of getting some of the various technology related stuff at school. And I remember, like at one point, and I'm not saying any kids were being malicious intentionally, but they would like kind of plan ahead where they were going to sit at lunch or things. And since she wasn't in that uh, world, they she was kind of left out, for
Oh,
example.
yeah.
And like I said, by no means am I saying that there was this malicious intent on part of these fifth graders, but I
Right.
mean, it was just a reality. She didn't get to communicate. She didn't get to know what was going on. So she shows up, and it's like musical chairs. She's the one left out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that is in a nutshell. That's what our kids are growing up in. Where, like I said, and we'll talk about it. Doesn't mean we give them free reign and open up the floodgates so they don't miss out on something with their peers.
Mhm.
But at the same time, we can't deny this isn't going anywhere.
Right.
If
Right.
anything, I think it's going to continue to grow, continue to develop. I mean, even in it really is amazing to me the amount of schools incorporating stuff
Mhm. Yeah.
from Google Classroom to all like there. I mean, schools now are used to really trying to harness and take advantage of technology. So there's no way you can really avoid having your kid having some exposure.
Right. And I think the greatest casualty with these devices and platforms is really relationships and attention span or
Yeah,
focus. And one of my theories, now I wanted to get your reaction to this. Okay.
yeah,
Again, I don't want to seem like a curmudgeon and where you're just like "Ugh," about everything, but I don't remember the hoodies being as prevalent when I was uh, in school. I remember you're working out, you're trying to stay warm, you're trying to sweat, whatever, you'd have a hood up,
yeah.
but they seem to be everywhere now. So I did a little research. Do you think hoodies have increased or decreased over the past 20 years for kids just walk around with their hoods up all the time? Hot days, cold days?
I would assume increase. I don't really remember having a hoodie
Hmm.
growing up at all. I mean, one of the first hoodies I just remember was Eminem.
Oh, okay.
Not
Okay.
supporting or endorsing Eminem right now, anybody who's listening.
Right.
But I just remember him doing some rap with a hoodie on TV.
Okay. Well, I did a little research, and 5% of schools, US public schools, used to have rules against like wearing hoodies. Now, the number, if you had to guess, because there's a lot going on here, what would
Yeah.
you guess the numbers at currently? Public schools or schools
I'm
that ban hoodies?
assuming more actually because of safety issues.
Yeah, it's over 50% of public schools ban hoodies. And why I bring this up is the hoodie industry's gone through the roof. Part of that's culture and fashion. It's not
Yeah,
all like nefarious. But the reason I thought this was interesting is I think it has something to do with how they see themselves, their self esteem, their desire to want to communicate with others. It's almost because if I just do this, okay, like I'm like this during the thing, like turtles do that when
yeah,
they want to get away from a predator.
yeah,
Like it's a little bit of what's the word where you're kind of withdrawing
yeah.
from stuff. Do you think that's behind it? Maybe social media has given kids a little more like sensitivity towards public settings and being around people.
Maybe a little. I think also kind of what we even you were alluding to too is the hoodie industry has a really strong voice online.
Hmm.
So like there's this comfort. Have you ever had a comfort hoodie?
Never heard of it.
They're big amongst the younger kids. They're like I would say that 25 and under.
Okay, no idea.
Crazy comfortable.
Okay.
So soft. Like it's pretty amazing. I don't have one. A couple of my kids haven't got them. But you start plugging whatever like the biggest brand is online
Mhm.
and well you want to fit in, you want to look like them. It's the same way with the phenomenon of the Yeti, the big
Oh,
Yeti
the
cups
tumblers
that
thing where people are
yeah,
getting filled for the
everybody
tumbler?
started getting it, and then even right now the big thing is the return of the hacky sack. So
No way.
yeah,
That's
it's
that.
huge now. That's yeah. So
Oh.
I think all of those instances there is that once again, and we're going to see how social media makes people feel like my life is missing something.
Well, that's a good point. Brings us to point 2. Whatever the coming trend is,
Yeah,
you said here, lead, don't just react. What do you think is important about that, and how do we do it?
yeah. I mean, I think you need to be proactive, not reactive. So you don't want to start discussing this matter with your kids when they've already developed an addiction or they've already went down some really bad paths and have some damage and some scarring that takes place because of uncontrolled social media for a young person. So you rather than try to pick up the pieces and fix what damage is done. I think it's so important that a parent is taking serious right now. I mean, even like you said, your kids are at a young age that you and your wife are starting to really think through, all right, this is what it's going to look like in the Reisner household.
Hmm.
And now it might change over time as our kids get older and we start experiencing what they're experiencing alongside of them. But like being very much intentional and thinking through the conversation. I just
Right.
think it's so easy because we're so busy with life. We have so much going on to be reactive parents.
Hmm.
We're just trying to keep our head above water, so to speak, and trying to just continue on. And then when all of a sudden something bad happens, like, all right, now I have to deal with it.
Hmm.
And it would probably be better if we dealt with it on the front end, and maybe the bad stuff won't happen.
Right. Yeah, I think it's the point you've got there is the key here. It's the fire extinguisher where you're putting out problems, or where you're actually training up and building. Like we've been talking through, and I've really appreciated the sermon series on the armor of God. A number of people that have said how much they appreciate it. I think for a couple reasons. One, it's very practical, and two, because we've really slowed down where people can stop and really meditate through each week kind of the different parts of the armor.
Yeah.
But we need to be on the offensive here and build up those positive qualities and characteristics. And Bible memory, I think, could be helpful. It's something I mentioned we're working on, and I think it's very helpful to spend time with our kids too. Sometimes we're guilty of this, not anyone else watching this. I'm sure no one has done this, but you turn on a movie just so you can be like, get away. And you're like, oh, get away from the kids for
Yeah.
no one
Spending
else does
time with
that.
the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Just us that does it. But you got to be careful because like playing Uno or being face to face with kids or just pushing Elijah on the swing or whoever, they remember that stuff. So, what do you think face to face with kids is that helpful for combating some of these reactive things?
Yeah, because it's just, I mean, one of the ones I remember a long time ago, I ran into a pastor in town and he was with a random person in his church. And I was asking him what he was doing. And he said, I'm just running some errands with this guy.
Yeah, that's good.
And the point when I ended up talking to him later is like incarnational ministry.
Hmm.
Like I had no agenda. He just hung out with me for a couple hours. We had to go pick up some stuff, do some stuff, and I got to talk and build in. And I think there is definitely not just in ministry, but in the ministry of the home, it's so invaluable. So I mean, sometimes having 6 kids, I might just have one of the kids run with me to the store or one of the kids work on something with me. Now, could I grab all the kids? Yeah. Or could I grab none of them? Yeah. But there's
Right.
just something like you said earlier, kids will remember this.
Hmm.
I mean, even with my father-in-law who recently passed a couple years ago, we spent a lot of time doing just random stuff, going to pick up something. I drop him off to get his car fixed or whatever it was. Those are those times where we got to have these conversations that over 20, 30 years they build up.
Hmm.
And I'm so grateful that I had those little moments with him. And I think we probably downplay how important it seems like it's ordinary, mundane stuff like our kids don't care. But trust me, when we're long gone and they're older, they're going to very much value that FaceTime that you speak of.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, those little moments are the key. One of the reasons we only have one car is so that we have to go places together. Not that everyone should do that, but spending time with kids is very important. Going to the post, I take them like every day to the post
Yeah.
office. It is annoying, but Hannah has made best friends with the sweetest lady that works there, and they talk every day. And she takes her little cards and stuff like that happens. And you got to spend time with them. So the greatest influence that we have on our kids, can you speak to who should be influencing our kids? Influencers or observing us?
Parents, hands down. I mean, I would argue one of your greatest responsibilities in life as a parent is uh, shepherding and caring for your children. That's far more in God's eyes. He is far more honored and pleased that you took responsibility at home seriously, as opposed to you having great success in your career and becoming famous and doing all of these things. I mean, Paul talked about even in church leadership, if you're unable to lead at home, you have no business leading God's people. So it's crucial. It's so important that you and I, especially as dads, are setting an example when it comes to just life in general, but especially in the subject what we're talking about. I mean, it's hard to uh, exhort and challenge our kids on smartphones and social media where you rarely give them FaceTime alone time, because even when you're with them, you'll find yourself, and I mean, I am by far not perfect at this. I'll find myself kind of in between while I'm trying to wrap up some stuff from church, and I'm also trying to spend time with them, and I'll notice myself checking an email or scrolling down. And then later, when you come to talk to them about them being glued to their phone, if your kids are honest, they're probably annoyed because
Mm.
they're like, "Who are you to?"
Yeah.
Yeah, hypocrite. Like, I watched you scroll the whole time we were talking.
Yeah, I really like what you said about dads. And I'm going to throw out a reference that only old people will probably know. Have you ever heard the phrase, if those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones?
Yes.
It really doesn't make a lot of sense. Who's
Yeah.
living in a glass house? But the point is, if you're doing it and guilty of it,
Yeah.
don't accuse others, basically.
Yeah, it's so easy. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, and it would get into a little bit of Jesus saying, take this
Yeah.
log out of your own eye." But the point, as fathers, I think dads have really been beaten down, and this isn't that moms aren't important too. Moms in our church that are homeschooling or helping disciple, that's very important. But dads have been so beaten down that they're not even trying to maybe lead in some of these areas, and you can have an honest conversation with your kids and say, "Kids, I've been blowing it. I've been on my phone. I've been doom scrolling. There's a lot of stuff going on. I've been trying to stay connected to work, and I'm sorry." And repent of it and tell them you're sorry and say,
Yeah.
"We're going to adjust some things, and we're going to have good days and bad days. And we want to move forward in grace for your good and the glory of God." And I think a lot of kids, even if they're 15, 16, 17, 4, 5, 10, they'll understand to different levels. Do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I think our kids are looking to us as their example,
Hmm.
but they're not looking for perfection.
Hmm.
Because if anything, if they've got this heightened view of mom or dad that they're pretty much flawless, it's gonna be easy for them to know they're not flawless, and then if
Hmm.
anything, they'll be guilted and feel, shame, like, "I can't be as good as my dad or as good as my mom."
Right.
So, I think there is a freedom, not that misery likes company, but there's a freedom when they realize, like, "Hey, even my dad
Hmm.
doesn't find this easy to deal with, so I'm in good company there." While at
Hmm.
the same time, I think it's also easier to encourage one another, if both of you are saying, "Hey, this is not for the faint of heart."
Right. And maybe an area where husbands and wives need to sit down and have a conversation about, hey, we need to make some changes in love, maybe lead by
Yeah,
example for a bit before we crack the whip. And
yeah,
even if you're single, this conversation can apply to how you interact to other people at church, younger people. I was watching, uh, it's the Tuttle Twins. It's a Mormon thing, but it's all basically politics and common sense things. They don't get into their view on Christianity, but they had a good point in there about fathers, and Ben Carson was the speaker guest guy, and when you don't have a father in your family, it really destroys your future opportunity for success, poverty, crime, all those things. And he mentioned, even if you don't have a father or aren't a father, it doesn't mean you can't be, in some sense, a father figure to other people, whether that's coaching or through church in different areas. So even if you're watching this thinking, "Well, I don't have any kids," it doesn't mean that you can't still help others in this area. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, I mean, I know I have the utmost respect for the coaches that coach my children,
Hmm.
and I always try to encourage them that, man, don't miss out on this opportunity to be influential in the lives of young people.
And if
And
you are a coach,
yeah,
don't be a
be
jerk.
yeah, be the example and really, yeah, be able to have them look and say, "Hey, my mom and dad set an example, but also does my football coach or my basketball coach or baseball coach or wrestling coach, whoever it is." Yeah, because it just there's such a influential opportunity. Because here's the problem, I think, with regards to social media, if
Hmm.
they're not finding that parent, that role model at home, they will find it online.
Or it will find them.
Yeah, it will find them. I remember Charles Barkley, who was an NBA basketball player and at times controversial, and he still does like pregame stuff. But I remember he freaked out because they were talking about him being a role model, and he's like, "We're not
Oh,
role models. We're basketball players." And
oh yeah, yeah,
like,
you are though.
whether social media people are trying to be role models, which I think they actually are, they end up being role models to our kids.
Yeah, they do. They 100% do. And that's a good point about sports figures. Back in the day, you had people like Al Kaline and others that were really great people that were also just successful athletes. And then over time, it became very egotistical, and there are still good sports figures out there. I can think of a few, but where it almost seems like they try to be flamboyant or controversial, um, just because it gets them more money. And they're not always great examples. And I would even say baseball, at least in my book, because of their focus on June and how they do. Like I haven't watched professional baseball in years and years because of the way I think they're influencing kids. But Becky and I
Yeah,
loved baseball. We used to love it, but not to say you can't watch baseball. I think it does have an impact.
yeah.
So we want to talk, which is our next point, which really segues well here, is to protecting the heart, and this is talking about pornography, external dangers, which would be predators, and then the discernment goal. What here jumps out to you?
I one, we talked about it last week. There's no neutrality here. Uh, any use by Satan and his minions and the flesh, the goal is to destroy. The goal is to damage your life, your faith, your witness, your testimony. And because of that, you got to take very seriously the inherent risk online. I mean, I used to have Twitter, and it would catch me off guard how in the feed, the things that would pop up unrelated to anything that should have been in my algorithm. And it's just like, I mean, I'm a grown adult where I can use some discernment and say, hey, I'm done with, I don't even want to see the potential of this. And I just ended up cutting an account. But like with our kids, I mean, there is stuff that will get thrown their way. And unless you're monitoring, unless you're walking alongside of them, and here's the problem with a lot of the things we expose, and like the one thing you had mentioned was pornography. Once you start down that path, it normally, based on statistics, based on science, it will be the laws of diminishing return. The more you're unsatisfied with whatever level of garbage you're looking at, and it goes worse and worse. Now, I don't know if he ended up being a genuine believer, nor am I saying that anybody who gets hooked on pornography will go down this path. But one of the most famous, well-known serial killers in the United States was Ted Bundy, and he professed faith at the end. Well, God knows if he'll be in heaven. But one of the things he really stresses in the testimony that I listened to was how he was exposed to pornography at a young age, and it opened up a hunger and just desires that were like not in his life yet, and it got worse and worse. And like I said, I'm not saying, parents, if you do not watch your kids social media content, they're going to become a serial killer, but they could. You
Yeah,
got to take serious. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. we looked, I think maybe last week or one of the weeks, we talked about guard your heart because it's a wellspring of life. And if that's true for you and I, it's most certainly true about our kids. So we need to be guarding their hearts. And yeah, there, like you had mentioned too, there's uh, predators that go online and try to trick kids so they can get access to kids. I would even say there's ideologies that are trying to be taught to your children.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just, I'm always shocked to hear young people talk about things related to like politics and social justice, and often their perspective and understanding is so off base from reality and so distorted. And I know they did not come up with that on their own. They
Mm.
were fed that garbage online over and over and over, and it starts taking root, and they start thinking, well, is that sin that big of a deal? It's no different than this. Is there really right or wrong? What about our feelings? Like all of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, social media is a very creative and clever way for Satan to take and capture your kid's heart.
I had a graphic and I had it made and I don't know what I did with it. But that is a great point about guarding the heart. And this graphic that I had showed by age what percentage social media they were using, whether it was
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube,
Yeah.
Facebook. And guess where the dinosaurs, what we use, Facebook mostly.
Bum, bum,
And th-
bum.
and then and then YouTube. And then the youngest generation, YouTube was higher. And then in the middle, it was Instagram, TikTok, no
Snapchat.
Facebook. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a million miles away from parents. And I thought, and I've been thinking about this a lot, I don't have X or Twitter, whatever it is either,
Yeah.
for the same reasons, and we've talked about that over the years. The algorithm is a wild animal. It's like letting a snake loose in your house. You don't know what that thing's gonna pop up next, and people will say, "Well, it's what you're looking at." I'm like, no, it's definitely not. It knows you're a guy. It knows your age. It knows you're interested in sports. It's not a rocket scientist. It knows what people will stop. It gauges your eyes. It's not good. And I began to think about, number one, if you are struggling with these issues, come talk to us.
Yeah.
You're not like outside the grace of God. You're not beyond being forgiven. It doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
not a Christian. Uh, People don't want to talk through these things. Um, that's the goal. That's Satan's goal, is to get
Yeah.
you to try to like struggle through and go down this rabbit hole. But it got me thinking, why do we even use these things? We can get a lot of benefit without Instagram. Like out of life, like I can live my entire life without seeing, like you talked about, somebody's food plate on Instagram. Like I don't want to see, I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, do we have to have all of the latest, greatest platforms?
We don't, I know we'll talk a little bit more about kind of claiming it for Christ
Mhm,
because everybody's going to be on it. Why not kind of repurpose it? There is that sense, I think we even talked about, we're afraid we're going to miss something.
mhm,
And like, well, if I'm not on, I think that's where we kind of trick ourselves into believing, well, if I'm not on, I'm not going to be able to stay in touch with what's going on in our world and in our country, and that obviously isn't true. One of the things I was just even thinking about as we were talking through just the inappropriate content, I think one of the things it does is it numbs our conscience. I remember watching, there was a graphic, and the number of murders that a child sees, now not real murders, but a number of murders a person sees by the age of like 15 because of TV and movies. And it's extraordinary. Like it's
mhm.
shocking. I mean, thinking about it, I'll even just not speak for you, John, but for myself, I can't imagine the number of like people created in the image of God in the context of a movie that were killed. So like the image of God becomes less and less sensitive to us when I can watch a movie where 40 people were killed. and
Mhm.
not even blink an eye. And I think the same is true with regards to like sexual content, where the marriage bed is to be kept pure, and there's this a sacredness. Job talks about, "I've made a covenant with my eyes not to
How
look
could a gaze
lustfully
yeah.
upon a woman." Paul warns us any other sins a man commits are outside of his body, but yet he who sins sexually commits sin against his own body. And yet we can get so exposed to that garbage over time. I think it numbs us. It makes men who are addicted to pornography, they look at women as sexual objects that fulfill desires, not as people created in the image of God. So it's
Mhm.
not just the content, it's the damage of what the content does to our hearts. I mean, it's the equivalent of cholesterol buildup in your arteries.
And your family,
Yeah,
and it enslaves you. It's a taskmaster, like you said. Whether it's bad theology, it could be, the rage culture. What do they call it? Clickbait
yeah.
and, I don't even know, but, like
Doomsday scrolling, but the clickbait, yeah,
yeah, clickbait and where it's this rage culture, but even, I was, the other day, I was watching the reactions to a trial that happened, and I told you it was bothering me.
yeah.
But, like, I think the Knicks won something and they just burned the city down. Like, that culture of people doing that never existed until about 10 minutes ago when smartphones, social media, and all these
Because we
stupid
would have
things.
never known.
Yes. Sorry, wait, let's all do something stupid together. Okay. And everyone just shows up, and now it's, like, expected. And then you have the theological implications where like J Dubs and Mormons or LDS or like another testament of Jesus Christ or come home, says Rome, or
Yeah.
etc. Like all these people, they're trying to get their tentacles into what's righteous and what's good and what's true. And 95% of the time, it makes me very upset. Do you think there's a lot of truth on the internet or a lot of lies on the internet?
Probably both. I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest dangers. Uh, Paul says Satan will often disguise himself as an angel of light,
Mhm. Galatians.
and yeah, so there is. I mean, there's a lot of truth. What we talked about, even with the sword of the spirit, the word of
Mhm.
truth. The only way you can wield it is if you know it.
Mhm.
And I think the danger is, if you remember, in the garden when Satan is tempting Eve, and he's like, "Did God really say?" And you can tell right away Eve doesn't know what God really said, because she says, "Yeah, He said we're not even supposed to touch it, and God never forbidden touching it; He forbidden eating." And I think with that kind of inability to really know the truth because we're often biblically illiterate, I think that even makes online so dangerous, because there might be some partial truth said.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
if you
just a
don't
little
know it,
poison.
yeah, a lot of times it's not as blatantly like obviously that is not 2 plus 2 is 9. Well, that's obviously wrong.
Well, ugh. I use that example a lot. I'll say, "Okay, so here's my water," and this isn't original to me,
Yeah.
but how much poison do I have to put in here before you won't drink it? And most people should say 1 drop.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we have to have our discernment trained and have good biblical doctrine. One of the things we talked about last week was how social media sucks up your time. Do you remember the number that I maybe made up, but I think it was accurate? How many hours a day the young people were on social media?
Was it 6 hours?
It was, I think, four and a
4
half.
4.5, okay.
4.5 or so, somewhere in there. But either way, imagine if you spend an hour of that time, like talking with your parents or praying or reading your Bible, um, instead of just watching like interesting. I told you about Just Dance Vance,
Yeah,
those will suck you in. Or it's so ridiculous. It's so
yeah,
ridiculous, that thing. But whatever the thing is, and most of the time, with the algorithm, you're the product. Like we're not back in the day when you would turn on TV, you didn't know what was coming. But remember that channel and it would scroll by what was coming up next?
yeah.
And
It
that
was
was
like the
good.
TV guide channel.
Yeah, the TV Guide channel, and then it became popular where you could just go to Netflix or whatever it is
Yeah,
and pick your movie, and then it would end, and then some genius said, "I'll just autoplay the next one and the next one," and you just never get out of this loop of, like, what is
yeah,
playing? And that's what social media has become, where you're not, like, actively just watching one video that you were trying to look for. You're getting a whole lineup of things that just keep playing forever that you didn't even look for,
yeah,
and there goes all your time.
true.
So it affects your mental health. What we give our eyes to affects our heart. And you hit on this. What do you think about anxiety, depression,
Yeah, I
suicide?
mean,
I think
they've
that's a big
they've
one.
done so many studies to show, just what is going on to your body physically when you are on a smartphone looking at social media. It increases heart rate. Uh, it does. It leads to, like, even panic attacks, all of these things. That's why it's really wild. But when people take a detox from a phone, like the first couple of days, I know our youth group just got back from a retreat and they had to hand in their phones. And I know initially when the kids do it, each time they've done that, there's a little pushback by the kids. They have no authority, so they're stuck giving up their phone. But I think they probably were pretty relaxed by the end of the retreat because they had taken almost 2 days without their phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just think there's just so much evidence to show, if you're constantly, because there's just so many ways, like you're like, I have to keep checking it, I have to keep checking it, or I know this is like a spoiler alert. The news is trying to rile you up online.
Oh yeah,
So
totally.
like they're not giving you,
Fair, balanced.
well, and good
Puppies.
news about people who saved puppies
Mm-hmm.
and kittens, and like they want you to be, yeah, to
Well,
be raging and frustrating and going down rabbit holes and bunny trails. And so yeah, like it is, it's yeah, it's terrible on our mental health. And the other thing is, one of the things I've learned very early on is what you see online in a person's life does not necessarily mean that is their reality.
mm-hmm.
Even as far as now, like people use filters, so you might, if you meet one of these influencers, they might look very different in real life.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Far more wrinkles,
Well,
far more blemishes.
they can even do it where it changes the person entirely now,
Yeah,
like
it's
to
yeah,
a
so
to like a woman,
you're
like a.
jealous of this individual's life that is not real.
Mhm.
Or they're giving you a very skewed view. I mean, I remember when I was in college, not college, seminary, there was a family in our church that on the outside looked like their life was in such order, and they ended up with a divorce. And like I remember talking with the wife, and I mean, when she kind of pulled the curtain and just shared what was reality, it's like, whoa, you would have never known. Well, fast forward, 25 plus years, that's social media. Well, you'll
Mhm.
see that family, and I mean, certain families are very avid on social media, and I'm not judging them, critiquing them, but you might see this. They have the most epic vacations and this, and they're just, and you look at your own life, and you're like, we're a hot mess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you get
Well,
insecure and you feel, and like, and the reality is their life might even be messier than yours.
it probably is. Comparison culture is
Yeah.
weird, and remember, it's, I'm rubber, you're glue. If somebody posts a photo of their epic life, it probably means they're trying to cover for something else because I personally, I told you last week, I think it's weird. Like, I use social media only for evangelism and trying to
Yeah.
reach people
I don't like
99% of the
sharing
time.
anything about my family hardly. Not because like I'm ashamed or embarrassed by my family, but I just want to protect my family and just minimize their, like, it's unnecessary exposure.
Yeah, and it's I think yeah, it's just a little strange. But this really got me thinking. I think there's wisdom in where you go on your phone, and like, why do I need YouTube? Now, I have YouTube. I would love to get rid of it. But there are many companies now that are creating their own app. So I like Living Waters. I like the Lagos
Yeah.
app, different things I use. And those are a lot better places because I don't get sucked into all this other stuff. It's not even really possible there. Do you think there's wisdom in maybe looking at apps that do one thing that are from maybe a Christian perspective? Not that you can't be in those other areas, but in places that are just not that have some sort of focus to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it hurts to try to streamline what you're doing online and focus on the things like, hey, I mean, like an example, you were talking earlier about scripture memory. There was an app. I get no
Hmm.
money by endorsing this app. I wish I did. Hey, Verses. It's called Verses. I found it to be one of the most helpful apps with scripture memory.
Hmm.
It gives like so many different ways. So you not only memorize it, you fill in the blank, you create the order of it. It's just it's hitting you on so many different levels. So I mean that's a way of using your smartphone for good.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it's really helpful if you minimize because like you said, you go into YouTube. One of the ways I use YouTube is I will look up stuff for exercise
Hmm.
or diet or like training with basketball. It's helpful in that because I can like certain, especially certain uh, creators have really good content, but you start looking at some, and then it's just this perpetual cycle.
Hmm.
Like you
Yep.
said, it's like I can't get out the loop.
Right. And with some of those things, I think we've got to think about how we introduce technology on the practical side to kids. What you've had experience with this. Do you do smartphones? And again, what advice would you give to parents when to use smartphones for kids? Should they do a dumb phone? We got Jordan like a watch thing that just we could call her on, you know?
Yeah, no, I think those are cool. I mean, I think probably you get a smart tone to your kid once they start walking. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. This one little soundbite will be cut out by
I've
this
already clipped it
crazy guy.
and
Uh,
Alex has it.
we, I think the now, mind you, a smartphone with us is not necessarily equated to a smartphone, if that makes sense. Initially, they had very limited uh, opportunity, and we've done it around the junior high age, around eighth grade. And it was, they started playing athletics, so it was good to have them have a phone uh, publicly, so they were able to text us and call us, but there was no social media. They, I think we had a kids YouTube at some point, but that was it. Uh, and then as they got older, we started maybe offering, not offering, allowing maybe a little bit more with regards. And I don't know. I definitely, my own opinion, I'm definitely not putting that in the hands of somebody under the age of junior high. And even the junior high age, I'm not convinced it's the best thing. Uh, so yeah, like that's, but like the social media, I really like we none of my children were allowed ever to have TikTok. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think having a clear and honest relationship with our kids is, at least for me, that's the only thing I can think of, prayer, that will actually be our best opportunity because kids can be very sneaky. I
well,
caught one of our kids throwing away part of a sandwich today and then lying to me. And I was like, did you throw away part of that? No. And then I went over and guess what I found in the garbage? The sandwich.
sandwich. We always with the smartphone specifically, they know at any time, any place, I'm allowed to take a look at their phone and ask for it. And if there's ever a point where they're arguing on whether or not I can use the phone's gone. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's a good rule. That's a good one,
it's
like a
not a
military
debate.
check.
So, I mean, I'll check, and I have other things in place, but from the browser history to
Well, don't
even
give away all your secrets because they might watch this.
text messaging, all that stuff. I like to be able to kind of get a feel what's going on. Now, as they're getting older and older, um, and my 20-year-old, like she's a grown adult. I'm not doing that. And my 18-year-old, I'm in that transition where it's like I parented him through it, and he's going away to college. And but yeah, I think I just yeah, you can't assume that this has become a very good thing for them.
And I think too, one thing I wanted to mention, rather than telling kids what they can't do, what we're trying to do is replace those with positives. So instead of YouTube scrolling or video scrolling, try to replace it with maybe Bible reading or memorization or Uno or playing outside. It's not a perfect thing,
Yeah,
but try to focus on things that are good and that will build them up instead of just what they can't do,
yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing.
I think the can't do probably woos them a little bit more
Mhm, mhm,
because I mean that was Eve.
mhm.
The one like could eat from any tree, but the one she couldn't eat from, that's one she wanted. And I think when we highlight too much of the restrictions, yeah, they're like, "What am I missing?"
Right, fear of missing out is already a big one.
Yeah.
Structural boundaries, I thought this was good. This was really good and something that I do not do at all, so I kinda hate that you put this up here, but this is good, and, can you speak to these structural boundaries? I thought these
And
3
this
were
is
good.
definitely, I would say, something that I don't do very well at. So, but like as I was thinking through this conversation, I think having minimal usage of the phone in like the bedroom, one for time, because they'll be laying in their bed doing whatever, and then next thing you know, hours later, they're still on their phone, whether it's watching stupid videos or even maybe streaming a game or a movie or something. So, also, I mean, when you're behind closed doors, you're more prone to be willing to see and do things that you wouldn't want to do if people are around you. So, like, yeah, I think making them have limits there. Uh, it's a weird tension for me. I would love to not have my phone near my bed when I go to bed.
Mhm,
But my role as a pastor, there is a sense, and this has happened over the 21 years, that I've needed to be reached in the middle of the night due to tragedies. So it's a weird, yeah. So, but I do try to stay off of social media. I try once it's bedtime. Like once I get to the bed, like the one thing I do, and it's not social media, and I don't know what you want to call it. I do puzzles, like crossword puzzles and stuff like that. I've been reading studies on trying to keep your brain fresh, kind of minimize even like Alzheimer's as people get older. So I sometimes will go to bed doing like puzzles and stuff like that, but I am not scrolling per se.
mhm. What about the tech agreement? I thought that was good too.
Yeah, I've known some friends and family members who've had like everybody agreed to certain rules, parameters, transparent consequences. One of the years we were like pretty much tech free as a family, with regards to like video games, TV. Uh, our kids view that as like the Great Depression.
I can see why. Oh, man.
Like, yeah, when they're gonna tell their kids, there was a time where I didn't watch TV for 2 months. But I remember that being one of the best summers we ever had. We spent a lot more time outside. It was this, so yeah, I don't know. Like my wife and I, we've talked about just like we're too caught up in some of this stuff that maybe we do need to do a reset.
Well, you can't be afraid to test, and you
No,
can't be afraid to say, "We might have blown this," or "We'd like to try something different." And I think it's hard when you're whipsawing kids around with different things all the time, and so you got to be careful. But things change, families change, kids get older. A reset could be good. Maybe there's wisdom there in a reset, which is our next point, which is digital wisdom.
Yes. I'm just recalling what we said. It helped children understand the digital footprint never fully fades. I mean, I think that is huge because even back in my day, and now mind you, I wasn't a great kid by any means. I was not walking with Jesus when I was in high school and into early college. But worst case scenario, things I said and did, you can only hear rumors of it.
Maybe a blurry, pixelated photo from
Yeah,
a
yeah, like you can only, yeah, you can only hear second and third
Bigfoot.
hand accounts. But in today's world, man, you post something, it will last your lifetime. It might cost you a future job. It might cost you getting into a college. You might lose a job from something. So yeah, like you cannot play around with what you do or what you say. I mean, some of these celebrities have have lost millions of dollars down the road because people are
Mhm.
able to look back and say, "Hey, that's great. He's doing this now, but did you know 5 years ago he said this word online?"
Right,
Or
right.
yeah, so your reputation's at stake when you're on social media. Uh, I would argue this is not necessarily a parenting thing. I do think there's a great opportunity for us to be truth dispensers online. But I think it can be done in a way, and you and I have talked about this over the years, where it's done with grace and truth, seasoned with salt. And I think sometimes it's shocking when I hear the fights that go on verbally in discussions, like in the threads of we'll limit to old people, social media, Facebook.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. No, not you specific. I'm
I'm
older than
kidding,
you.
I'm
Like
totally
I'm
kidding.
way older. But that Facebook, like where you look at a thread and these people will be going back and forth, and like I am pro speaking truth. I would rather you sidebar them and interact with them one on one, even if it's through social media. That
Well,
you would say, "Hey, let's talk through what we're talking about."
yes, the key here is preaching online, in my opinion,
Yeah,
speaking from a place of authority and just saying this is true, and then not getting engaged in the comments is very important because people that are looking to argue, a fool takes no delight in understanding, but only expressing his own opinion. They're not interested in hearing your response. And you need to be able to ask good questions like, hey, if I could demonstrate this, would you be interested? I've had a lot of these conversations over the years. And if it's someone close to you, especially if it's like Facebook, which is people you probably know,
yeah,
call them, just talk on the phone. And I've had to do that before. And it doesn't go bad. It doesn't really change anything. Um, I would say adjust your expectations for your friends and family being directly impacted by social media by you. Most likely, who you're going to impact on social media in terms of gospel and things like that are people that don't know you, right? A prophet is not without honor except in his own hometown, right? Who
yeah,
are the hardest people? Your family, right? Because they know
yeah.
you. And the people that don't, it seems to be the way that it tends to work. Do you think that's fair or unfair?
Fair. That's what happens.
Mm.
And I think sometimes your intent to be making a good impact ends up actually doing more damage than good.
Yeah, you can definitely just don't battle. You don't that's the cool thing that is hard to learn, and it's easy for people to tell you, and everyone wants to learn for themselves, but you don't have to argue with people. First Timothy 2, Second Timothy 2. I always mess up the book. But the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, gentle to
Yeah,
all, able to
I mean,
teach,
it's a
correcting.
quality guideline of an elder. Now, that doesn't mean we don't at times disagree, but yeah, I think some people relish conflict and
Mhm.
almost get kind of an adrenaline high off of it online. Man, they were going at us and just defending Jesus. And I'm like, Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, where you're just looking for a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% because that gets clicks. That's clickbait.
Mm,
100%. Let's talk about family culture, elevating the physical, protecting. Well, we talked about this.
mm.
So, anything to add here on eye
Yeah,
contact?
I think I don't know what the studies are now, but like, and it's difficult sometimes because I mean I have 6 kids. Everybody's got different schedules, different responsibilities. One's going to be going away to college. It's just it's hard to have a family meal, but we try to prioritize it. One of the things I normally do is I will tell people to put their phone down if I see a phone while we're sitting there. Yeah, it just and one of the things with their younger kids, and they don't have social media and phones, but they do have video games. Just trying to really stress that they would go outside
Mm-hmm.
and get fresh air and play with each other. Um, like you said, we said like earlier on in the very beginning, just having meaningful conversations, one-on-one time. Because the end of the day, here's a wild thing, John. You and I have the same 24 hours everybody else does,
Mm-hmm.
and that 24 hours, if it's a pie chart, can only have so many hours of this, so many hours of that, and we don't get those 24 hours back ever. Like what happened uh, on Sunday, I can't get that time back, and what's
Right.
happening today, I can't get the time back. So, really, I think as parents, just stressing that with our children. Let's assume that our kids are averaging that 4.5 hours that you mentioned last week. That's not good. We
Right.
need to help like replace at least some of those 4.5 hours with things that are going to be life giving and helpful and uh, producing mental health, peace, and those kind of things.
Yeah, I think letting our kids know that we're the leaders for their good and that the phone isn't their leader and that even this is going to make me super unpopular. Your peers don't know what they're doing. That
Yeah,
is not who you want to look for to lead you. Now, there are exceptions where it's like, "Oh, that's a good kid." But generally speaking, kids think that the kids they're hanging out with are the leaders and they'll call them leaders and be leaders in school when in reality their dad should be their leader or their pastor in church should be their leader. God has ordered things much differently than the way our culture sees things, where it's like your parents are these old fuddy people that don't get things and you're smarter than. And it really spends a lot of time disparaging dads. I think our culture really does. And kids need to know that's actually violating the fifth commandment. Not that every parent is perfect,
yeah,
but, dads are good, and dads are there for your good, and you need your dad should be who you look to and feel like you can come to and talk to, which goes back to Ephesians 6:4. We don't wanna provoke them, we don't wanna be overly harsh with them, but they, need to know that we care about them and love them, and, that's where parenting books and things like that can be helpful, or if you need help, ask Joe or Andy or I'm not sure how much wisdom I have in this area, but people that have had a lot of wisdom here can help you. I think Kaz is really kind and compassionate, with your kids and to get them to look to you as somebody they look up to, which would make them devoted disciples, which is our goal.
yeah. I mean, we want our children. I know the greatest desire I have for my kids is that they love Jesus, they grow in their knowledge of Christ, and they go and make Him known among the nations. And everything ultimately should be kind of centered around that goal and ambition. And I think that's where technology can be helpful in that. I mean, it's great if my kid is on his phone listening to worship music when he's just working around the house or things like that, where they're on that Verses app or they're in their Bible app and they're studying the Bible and they're memorizing scripture or they're listening to a Christ centered podcast or like those are all good things that are going to help. I remember when like one of the things I've noticed with this with regards to like fitness since we've been in a YMCA for almost 20 years. Some people argue I don't need a gym to get healthy. And there's definitely truth to that. Uh, but a gym can also really streamline the process. Most of us don't have gym caliber equipment and exercise machines that the gym does that maybe can maximize your time. And I think, yeah, you can be healthy and maybe even easier so without smartphones and social media, but man, they can be really helpful in fostering gospel growth in your life. But it takes purpose, it takes intentionality, it takes parents who are shepherding and pointing their children up in the ways of the Lord, so that they not easily enticed by what the world is saying to them, especially online.
Yeah, we have to be careful. You mentioned this earlier, but you know, leaving kids alone with a smartphone might not be the best idea. Having rules where they can use them and how you check them, I thought that was great. The social media tech agreement was a good idea. It's just setting up some guidelines and rules based on grace and talking to your kids about replacing bad things with good things so that they're not tempted. Because I think the danger is temptation, which grows into sin and then
Yeah.
sin leads to death, like you were saying. And as Christians, we are secure because of what Jesus has done, his life, death, burial, and resurrection. You're not going to be lost if you are, in fact, a born again believer. We believe that. But you need a church advertisement. You need a church. The church is there to help you and your family. Your primary role is to shepherd your children, but the church is to come alongside. And we mentioned this when we did the child dedications. I didn't want to say infant, child dedications, whatever they
Yeah.
were, that the church is coming alongside kids. And I love it when older people take an interest in our kids at church. I think it's very helpful.
Amen.
So, with that being said, it is time. Any closing thoughts before we switch into the weird question at
One
the
of
end?
one of the things I have started doing with my kids, the older ones that actually have smartphones, is when they ask for an app, I ask the age-old question. What question is that?
What does it do?
Nope. Why?
Oh, why? Okay.
I ask them why. Like, why do you want Snapchat, which is one of the ones I hate,
I don't even know it.
and that's pretty much a no for anybody that's not 18. Uh, I don't like it. I think maybe it's showing my age. I think it's a stupid app. It's weird to me. I remember early on with one of my older kids that had it, they would just be sitting there and they'd randomly take a picture of their face or their
Okay.
eye or above their head. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, well, we send these pictures to all of our friends. I'm like, why? Like, why do you care? Uh, so like, yeah, like for a kid, they have to sell me on why this app is good enough and okay enough for me as a parent to support them
Mhm.
putting on. And often they're not good enough salespeople
Mhm.
and they get a no. And I always tell them, if you don't like that, I can just take the phone altogether. And usually it's amazing when those are the two options.
How
They're like,
quickly that.
I'm perfectly content with what I have.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, I think kids just using their phone as a phone is a novel concept that, it could work. It might work. Just call them and don't do all that other stuff. So now it is time to shift gears into our question. Now, since this is part two of our social media conversation, we've by no means even scratched the surface on this
No.
stuff. This is really, I think, just a conversation starter.
Yeah.
It's permission to think through it. It's maybe kicking the tires a little bit, saying, "Hey, how are we doing?" Maybe some diagnostic questions that
Yeah.
will register. This is
Agreed.
by no means comprehensive, but since this is part two, we've seen movies that have a part one and part two. And so the question for you today is which one are you eliminating? Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 2? Did the sequel do better than the first one? And if you don't know, it's okay. I honestly, Toy Story don't really know, but I tried to pick PG movies. So, which one did it better?
I would say Toy Story 1, Shrek 1, Pirates of Caribbean 1, Incredibles 1. I would probably go Twin Towers
Is that oh, okay.
on the Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So I would
Now
say 4 of the 5, I'm going with the first movie.
okay, okay. So can you speak to, let's say you picked, you felt pretty strongly about Lord of the Rings. Can you tell us about Tolkien? Like, what is it on that one? And it's okay if you don't have a ton of
It's
time.
gonna sound terrible. I don't like that whole genre.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's fine.
However, I've had family and friends that love it. So like I think it's good.
Mhm.
Um I thought it was a little Twin Towers a little bit more intense.
Mm.
So I liked that kind of the more battle element of it, where I felt like the Fellowship was a little bit more of a drama.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So
Um, Shrek, an interesting thing about Shrek, I don't know why I know this, but Mike Myers was Shrek and did
yeah,
a great job. But originally, do you know who was set to play Shrek?
no idea.
It was Chris Farley.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he died like right before. So, but what you're saying is the first movie usually is better than the second, and the one out right now is Super Mario One, and then they did the second one.
Yeah,
Have you
yeah.
seen either of those? I don't know if that's
I
in your
I
wheelhouse.
have seen both. I personally like the first one better.
Right, right. I think I agree with you. But it's fun for the kids to watch stuff like that. It's hard to beat the original, you know.
It's tough. I will say this, and once again, anytime we talk about a movie, please understand we are not endorsing nor challenging you to go see the movie.
Hmm.
I thought Maverick might have been better than Top Gun,
Okay.
which I didn't. Yeah, because Top Gun's an iconic Tom Cruise movie,
Hmm.
and I was really surprised that I thought Maverick, my own opinion, might have been better. So
Yeah, I mean, that is up for debate. Tag Joe on that. Leave it in the comments which one was better if you watched those two. Which quite frankly, if you're older, I mean, I wasn't saved till I was older, so I watched a lot of the movies that I wouldn't watch now. But
well, it's
like who
crazy when you
didn't
see
see
those
Top
movies.
Gun
Even
though?
I remember watching Back to the Future
Mhm.
in more recent years, like as an
Mhm.
adult, and same with Karate Kid.
There's a
It's
lot
like
of blasphemy in that one.
language and stuff that I
Mhm.
don't remember
Well,
when I
I
was in
think
high school.
part of it is, and I was having this conversation, not to justify you guys watching crazy
Yeah,
movies, because remember VidAngel, we talked about that.
yeah,
Um, they used to have a TV version of movies that
that's
they
true.
were
And
edited.
a lot of these movies I would have seen on actual television.
So when you watch them now and they're not edited, you're like, "Wait, I don't remember that." Now, part of it
Whoa,
was you were a kid and you probably didn't pay attention anyway.
yeah,
But you gotta be discerning in the movies you watch too. But there it is. First, parts of movies better than the sequels. Probably holds true with this one as well. I'm
probably.
just gonna vote for that. We're not gonna vote on that one. But if you have any closing thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up.
No, just I parents take serious your responsibility, but also realize this is a journey. This is a lifetime of parenting, and even as you parent them into adulthood, you're trying to equip them to make their own decisions in this area. So have some grace involved with yourself that you might not be strict enough, or you might be being too strict, and be willing to kind of adjust as you work through this. But I would say you're probably not going to look back with regret. Man, I wish I would have let my kids have a lot more freedom during social media.
Right. And if when in doubt, talk to people in the church. Go to
Yeah,
people that have wisdom. Paul
yeah,
Tripp is the expert in parenting stuff. Different
yeah.
people. There's all kinds of books. In fact, we should probably get some books for the resource table on this topic if we don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
a couple people have linked us stuff via
okay.
text messages with us doing this.
Yeah. Books are a great place to start. So, anyway, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Joe. Remember to believe the gospel, repent, believe in Jesus, death, burial, and resurrection. And if you do need a place to come to church, we would love to have you.
Love to have you.
Sundays at 10 at Covenant. And it's the YMCA in Perrysburg. Thank you guys so much. And God bless.
Awesome.